All right, I'm Jason Whitlock. He's Marcellus Wiley. That dude?
Yes, sir.
All right, welcome to Speak for Yourself, the most fearless show in sports. Coming up, we'll tell you if Carmelo Anthony's interview today will help him get another shot in the NBA. And 1 hour from now, we'll get into the latest on the LeBron James-David Griffin feud. But we start today with a look at LeBron's future. All right, well, King James has no shortage of motivation for his 17th NBA season. His Lakers missed the playoffs last season. Kawhi Leonard spurned the opportunity to work alongside him and instead declared war on James and the Lakers by joining the rival Clippers. LeBron was mildly criticized for making a spectacle of himself at his son's AAU games. LeBron's internet worshipers created the impression that advising him to stay off the court during games he's not playing in was akin to being a co-conspirator in the assassinations of JFK, MLK, and Malcolm X. And LeBron's former boss in Cleveland, David Griffin, painted an unflattering portrait of what it is like to work for King James. Most damning, Griffin said James has lost his animal desire to win. Yesterday, Lakers forward Kyle Kuzma cried on Kari Champion's shoulder on ESPN, telling the daytime broadcaster, quote, "This offseason, you see just people slandering his name and saying this about him and saying that. But you know, he's been super motivated this offseason, working between shooting movies. He's in the gym. He's in the gym early, night, whatever. So just being locked in, that's the biggest thing, being ready for it all." All right, the last time we've seen LeBron serve this much motivation was in the aftermath of the 2011 NBA Finals. Dirk Nowitzki and the Mavericks embarrassed James in those finals. LeBron melted down and was justifiably criticized. He came back the next year and won the MVP award despite playing just 62 games, and he won the first of his 3 NBA titles. That was 8 years ago. LeBron was a relative pup at age 27. He'll be 35 this season. This is Rocky III. Can a fat and happy LeBron James restore the eye of the tiger? ESPN's Dave McMenamin wrote a solid piece yesterday reminding everyone that LeBron's own words back up Griffin's critique. LeBron has stated that he has nothing left to prove as a basketball player. On ESPN's More Than an Athlete, LeBron bragged that after he beat the 73-win Warriors in the NBA Finals, that he surpassed Michael Jordan as the greatest of all time. LeBron is quite pleased with himself. He's angry and motivated now. He'll be bored by January. Worse, by March, it will be crystal clear to everyone that the Lakers can't compete with Kawhi Leonard's Clippers. This is the end of the LeBron James rule of the NBA. Ooh. All right, joining the desk now is Fox Sports Radio host Doug Gottlieb. Marcellus, I'll start with you.
Yes.
Will the criticism this offseason motivate LeBron in the coming season?
You know it is. One, let's just set the record straight. We know that greatness is never absent of motivation. He's still great. He's still an all-NBA player. We know who LeBron James is. But let's talk about this level of motivation, maybe some additives to this motivation. A lot of people are shooting at LeBron, and LeBron finally took notice. At least he wanted to address that I am noticing. So you can have it your way, Michael Jordan's way, which is I'm going to wait till the Hall of Fame speech and cry about it and let you know I heard y'all. Or you can do like LeBron, just like, I hear you, and I'm coming. And it's amazing that two things are at play, mostly the doing of the media, that LeBron James has to understand this is just the nature of the beast. One is there's a thin line between love and hate. LeBron James last year was dunking in the AAU lines with his son. And nobody said a damn thing. 2018, I remember seeing the videos. So I was like, okay, let it live. 2019, all of a sudden, oh my God, LeBron, what are you doing? Be a father, stop being a celebrity. Ooh, what has changed? Narrative. What has changed? The wobbling of the Lakers. They didn't make the playoffs. What has changed? LeBron had his first major injury. That's interesting. But the one thing I learned about the media, and certainly media training 101, is the media loves to build you up, but they love it even more to tear you down. And right now, they smell a little blood in the water. Timber! They smell a little blood in the water. But this is why they are so off base. And I say they because I am not part of this part of tearing down LeBron James. I don't think that he's done being who he is as the king. Everyone says LeBron, by his own words, said, I have nothing left to prove. He said that.
Yeah.
But when did he say that? After he won the championship in 2016 and in the playoffs of 2017, that was the first time he said it. And people are running with that. Do y'all know what he did the next year? first and only time in his career played all 82 games and had his highest scoring average in the last decade. A tremendous season and a tremendous postseason. They got swept by the dynastic Warriors at the time. So for all of this smoke to come about a guy who says I have nothing left to prove doesn't mean I don't have nothing left to do. So remind yourselves who you're talking about, or LeBron next year. I think he's going to remind us.
So does that mean he's going to win the MVP? Are they going to win an NBA championship? Like, again, like to what level is he going to prove to us that we said he was done too soon?
Oh, that's a question? First of all, that's absurd criteria for anybody to say, I have to win MVP when that's a revolving trophy. He's won it 4 times. And then to say he has to win a championship or he didn't do his part. I think LeBron is saying, look, you're talking about me? Watch my game as you watched my game last year. 27, 8, and 9. Like, are we really taking shots at that guy? There's a lot of fish in the water to try and get that big fish.
Well, look, I mean, if you want to go by stats, then Russell Westbrook is the best player that we've seen ever in the NBA. Average triple-double 3 years in a row. No one's done that in the modern history of the NBA. So we can go stats. I mean, this is the same. You know, people want to pick out LeBron and his injury. It's fair. But when he was back, they lost to the worst teams in the NBA, Memphis and Phoenix. When you pick it, they lost them. Sacramento, the teams that didn't make the playoffs, those are the ones they lost to. That's why they fell out of the playoffs. I do think it'll motivate him. I do think they're better. But I think the same flaws that David Griffin pointed out are going to be the same flaws with the Lakers, right? You have a GM who's trying to fit pieces around him. They tried to have control of the head coaching situation where they couldn't get Ty Lue. They didn't really want Ty Lue, but then they had to get Ty Lue. So now you have Frank Vogel, who's never coached an NBA Finals before. How long does that relationship last before he sours on it? Anthony Davis said in his opening press conference he didn't want to play center. Well, guess what, Anthony Davis? Every good power forward that plays with LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Kevin Love, plays center, spaces out in the corner. So do I think he'll be better? Do I think he'll use his motivation? Of course. That's what the best do.
Right.
Do I think that ends up in a championship? I don't. I think it's a flawed roster, and I think he's 35. He can't do the things that he used to do at both ends of the floor.
I agree with much of that. I would add this to the thing that concerns me about LeBron's tweet and the promise of ether and the fire emojis and you've played with the throne. One, it plays into my narrative that LeBron thinks of himself as royalty, but more than anything, the ether and the appearance of anger. Anger is not the right emotion for LeBron James. We saw it after the decision in his first year with the Miami Heat.
Great point.
And it ate him up. And he had to come back the next year and reinvest in joy and the proper emotion that drives LeBron James. Again, the AAU tape screams, this dude loves basketball and takes a lot of joy in it. That's his emotion. If he taps into anger, I think it works against him. I don't think he's got Kobe's mentality, Michael Jordan's mentality. He's got a different mentality. And then the number one reason why I think it's going to blow up in his face is because what's inside that Staples Center building sharing it with him. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Doc Rivers, Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams, Patrick Beverley, Jerry West, Lawrence Frank. All that is just going to be too much. He's already a little angry and feels victimized, and then he's going to be in the same building with what I believe will be the best team in the NBA that has a championship coach. And I think that's going to eat him up and frustrate him because the other thing we've seen when LeBron gets frustrated, he will tap out. He will tap out. That's part of LeBron's history, and I think that's what's going to happen.
I don't think it's fair to LeBron to say that when he responds in tweet and says ether is coming, that is anger being shown. You know, because I think a lot of times we say how we would feel if we were in that position. I know if you doubt me and I'm still at the top, I'm just in remind mode. Like, oh, all I got to do is do me, and I'm going to remind y'all because obviously the narrative has gotten away from my actual production and contribution. So LeBron is probably sitting back saying, if I didn't get injured last year, which is a part of aging, it was a part of the team construction, how he has to play himself and manage his minutes, but LeBron is sitting there with a ton of confidence. It's not like he has to reach for another rung to become something that reminds us of his greatness. Just play it through, play it out. And just a couple years ago, he was able to play for the first and only time 82 games. I think LeBron is looking at this situation like, look, upstairs, Rob Pelinka and all them other guys, that's not David Griffin. Rob Pelinka is not going to sit there and cry in anxiety after winning a championship, saying, oh, Lord, the stress is going to get to us. They're going to be elated in joy because the Lakers brand will be restored. So I just think LeBron is playing with different variables in a positive way, not like he was even in Cleveland.
I'm going to tell you the variable he's not playing with that he was when he was 27, 28, 29. He's a liability defensively. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He can't.
Well, he was the ultimate.
You got to choose.
He was the ultimate Swiss Army knife before.
Yeah.
Additionally, look, the league has changed. Mm-hmm. Okay, the idea that you're going to play iso ball and he'll invite to double team. That's not. Everything's ball screen and spacing and pace and space. And that's not how he plays. That's not how he's ever played. So he's caught a little bit in between eras in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And he's not the same defensively. And look, I don't wish injury upon anybody, especially one of the great players in the history of the sport.
Right.
But when you're 35, and you don't get less hurt, you get hurt more often.
Say it.
Right? Like anybody,
and it takes longer to come back.
Right? Anybody, like it's a hamstring, it's a groin this year, it's a hamstring next year. It gets worse and it gets worse, and they're gonna need him. I think it's fascinating. You have the arrogance of the Lakers, of the King, and then you have the Clippers, who are the third tenant in their own building. There's no banners up in there at all, and yet you have a guy with championship pedigree, probably the best player in the sport, in Kawhi Leonard, choosing them over the Lakers. Like, that whole thing is amazing, and how they emotionally handle that, it's going to be fascinating. But I think we're still kind of missing the point. Did David Griffin say anything that we didn't already know or think or other people hadn't said, and yet we're acting like it's profound? I guess it's only because it's an insider.
When it comes from a general manager,
yes.
That adds a lot of legitimacy to what others have said.
I don't know why he said it.
It's more significant. Well, I think because I don't know why people were upset, particularly journalists, that he said it. You know, as journalists, I like for people to be transparent and honest and say interesting things. And so I don't get why, you know, people are, he better go on TV and clarify. I don't buy that. I think he said it. Phil Jackson said some things about Kobe Bryant in a book shortly after working with him that were critical. And, you know, that I didn't see, and again, Kobe was in a different spot. He was coming, it wasn't long after Colorado and things like that. But I didn't see this blind worship of how dare you say there were some problems working with Kobe. Kobe's a human being. There's some problems working with him. Phil Jackson talked about him. David Griffin's doing the same thing. I will just go back to, again, LeBron's personality. And I say this as a positive. That dude naturally is positive energy. Mm-hmm. Again, he may misdirect it. He may, but he is positive energy. And if he tries to go negative energy, it's not going to work. And then I don't think, and again, I don't mean this as an insult, because it's not. He's a positive person. He's not a fighter. And I think Kawhi Leonard has come to L.A. like, oh, I'm ready to fight. I'm a fighter. Yeah. My personality, oh, you want some combat? Let's do it.
Smoke.
And I don't think that's going to work well for LeBron. I don't think he's ever been challenged in the way the Clippers are about to. And Kawhi, backed up by Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams and Patrick Beverley, just the mentality of that team.
All a bunch of dogs.
The mentality of that team
in a good way, yes.
Versus Anthony Davis and LeBron.
Yeah, but is that, you know, my favorite sport, track and field.
Yeah.
There's two things you can't do is get psyched out, meaning don't lose the race before you even start it. And sometimes that can happen. Lane 1, Marcellus Wiley. Lane 2, Usain Bolt. Oh, damn. You know what I mean? So you can't be LeBron looking in the other lane saying Kawhi over there. Oh, God. And I don't think LeBron's mental makeup would even let him give Kawhi that much credit. Second thing you can't do is peak. It's like you run your own race. I don't think that the Clippers is really going to take too much away from LeBron's motivation or get in his vision. You know why? LeBron came here as soon as he landed, had some missteps, his own misdoings, and then they reminded him quickly, this is Kobe's town. Always will be. And defaced the mural, everything. LeBron was never in a race for L.A. He never even got a fair chance. He never gave himself a chance by his own misdoing. So I don't think that now that he's going to say, I'm going to run L.A. because the Clippers are here.
He has basically participated in the whole LeBron versus Michael Jordan debate.
He said it's over.
Yeah, he's participated
it's
in
over.
it. Right. And so he's concerned about narrative. No athlete tries to manipulate and control the narrative. Rich Paul's, if we could get in his phone right now to see all the calls he made last night trying to control this narrative. And so when that Clippers narrative and Kawhi and what they have starts taking off, that envy, and what it'll say about LeBron if this guy leads a third team to a title, that's something LeBron hasn't done. I just think human nature is going to take over, and LeBron doesn't like losing the narrative war, and he pays a lot of attention to it.
I'd also be interested. I just want to know, look, do I think it motivates him? To answer your initial question, it has to. Has to. He's a champion at the end of the day.
Right.
I don't believe he's the greatest player of all time, but it has to motivate him. The question is, at 35 years old, with a changing NBA, with a coach who's never coached him in it, and never coached a championship team, never coached him a day in his life, and a team that does not have perfect personnel, and you have all the other teams. We're not even talking about the Jazz or the Rockets. We'll see what the Warriors look like. I mean, there's other teams, the Nuggets, the Trailblazers, it's not a full frontal assault from just the Clippers.
Yeah.
It's everybody in the West coming at you. This ain't the East anymore. And at 35, can you dial it up when it's called upon? I think the answer is we'll have to find out.
This is Jason Whitlock from Speak For Yourself, and I'm here to tell you to use ZipRecruiter.com as your hiring solution. Hiring is challenging, but there's one place you can go where hiring is simple, fast, and smart. A place where growing businesses connect to qualified candidates. That place is ZipRecruiter.com/speak. ZipRecruiter sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards. But they don't stop there. As applications come in, ZipRecruiter analyzes each one and spotlights the top candidates so you never miss a great match. ZipRecruiter is so effective that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. And right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/speak. That's ZipRecruiter.com/speak. SPEAK. ZipRecruiter.com/speak. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Doug Gottlieb is back with us. Time now for a big story. Let's move to Carmelo Anthony, who is still without a job in the NBA some 9 months after getting cut by the Rockets just 10 games into last season. Well, Melo is now out campaigning for work, showing up for a wide-ranging interview with Stephen A. Smith on First Take this morning, where he talked about this past season and how it affected him, saying, quote, "I felt like I loved the game more than the game loved me at that particular time. Now I love the game too much to be away from it. Now I got a new life about me. It took me a while to get out of that situation emotionally." Again, gentlemen, I was thoroughly impressed with Carmelo Anthony. Left that interview feeling like if my Pacers, if Miami Heat, or even the Golden State Warriors should make a play for Carmelo Anthony, I think he's in the right mindset.
He's certainly in the right mindset. I don't think this interview did him any justice in terms of his efforts to get back in the league. I don't. One, let's just start where we come from as athletes, as all who cover the sport. In purity, sports is a meritocracy. In purity, it's supposed to be. We know we've kind of morphed from that. We know we've kind of, between media, journalism, coverage, access, athletes, brands, everything, it's not just how good you are. And so we know that when we get drafted. We know that it's not just a talent-driven choice. There's also other variables. So the way you come in is also going to be the way you go out. It's not just going to be talent. Is Carmelo buckets? Should Carmelo be in the league right now? Absolutely. I feel so, based on production, based on what he can do, depending on role. The problem is, game recognizes game in terms of talent, but when you have to remind the game that you still have it, I've never seen a guy get that grip back on the sport and his opportunity once it's slipped. Des Bryant comes to mind. Many a guys come to mind when you think about once they start writing the story about you beyond your production, and as Carmelo even said, it's deeper than basketball. Once we get out of that lane of just Carmelo being a great player or a good player at his age, and we start talking about these other variables, I think it's impossible to remind the sport and the GMs that you get another chance. So this won't help him and service him.
I don't think it helps him nearly as much as you do, Jason. First of all, I spent time with Carmelo Anthony. He's a great guy. Everybody likes Carmelo Anthony. As a person, he's a good dude to hang, sprite. And he's somebody who has a lot of interesting thoughts to share with the world, not just about sports, but also he's really into filmmaking as well. But he called out Daryl Morey, and he never had an open conversation with James Harden. He basically went to Chris Paul and said, "Why am I getting cut? Did you do this?" So he put it all on Daryl Morey. Well, like, Daryl Morey's a GM. He's got GM friends, and he's running out of teams to pick him up. Additionally, you're right. It's not a meritocracy.
Daryl Morey, I got no problem with anybody calling Daryl Morey out, but continue.
Okay, I mean,
I know he's part of a little analytics clique.
no, listen. I don't think he's perfect. I'm just saying it's kind of like what Marcel's talking about. It's about more than basketball.
Yeah.
No.
You know, GMs talk, and he's like, oh. He also called out Oklahoma City and didn't like his role there. Like, okay, so where do you like your role?
Well, but Doug, help me out there, because I watched the whole deal. He did not call anybody out in a vicious way.
No.
He took the high road, and he put out his side of the story, but he harmed no one.
No, but he did question, hey, Daryl Morey, he made Daryl Morey seem very cold-blooded and walking in and saying,
as a general manager, that's a good look, but continue.
I agree,
Yeah.
but I don't know how that translates into the general manager world. Additionally, like, look, posting videos on one-on cone and shooting jump shots, like, look, dude, there's a trend.
Love it. He's desperate.
Yeah, but he's not.
Love it.
But,
Yes,
but
he
that's not
is.
what he said. He didn't say, I'll play anywhere. I'll take any role. I will buy in. He didn't. He can talk all he wants about I finally accepted coming off the bench. It was really hard for me. Hey, dude, can you go from being Melo, 20 shots a game, 30 points a night, to, hey, man, we might need you 5 minutes a night, and we need you to wave that towel, and we need you to smack butts when they come over. We need you to be the trend in the NBA.
What I heard
is,
from
is
Melo,
culture, and he doesn't bring something to the culture.
Melo was a guy you could sit and have that conversation with, and he would be open to it. It's like, bring it to, because I think he thinks his reputation precedes him. And I think he acknowledged during this interview that he wasn't in the right place mentally. He needed his ego chopped down, and it has been. And I'm just telling you, I heard a human being like, oh, yeah, this is someone I can reason with. Again, will he be perfect? Absolutely not. No one is. But he's in a much better mental space than he was previously, and I think where he was mentally was the only justification for keeping him out of the league. The guy can get a second unit buckets and give you 5 or 6 good minutes while your starter's resting and out, and there's so much desperation in this league right now because of the equality that you can't tell me. A GM would be an idiot not to say, man, I wonder if I can get 15 minutes out of Carmelo and help me be that 1% advantage to get me past somebody in the playoffs.
Okay, there's 2 different elements to it. Okay, first, not all the teams in the league are trying to win. We agree, right?
No, yeah,
So
I know.
those
the
teams,
ones that are.
So so you got to cut off like 10 of those teams, maybe 12 of those teams. They ain't trying to win. They play young players. They play young players, right?
Yeah.
So now what are we down to with teams? Okay, there's 30 NBA teams, and now we're down to 15, 16, and he's already played for 4 or 5. They're all out. Okay. Then you have one of his closest friends is LeBron James, who had a chance to bring him into Cleveland. No thanks. Had a chance all season and all offseason to bring him into LA. Huh?
He was in the wrong mindset.
No, he's not. LeBron
No,
knows
he
that it
was
doesn't.
in the wrong
everybody
mindset
loves to hang out with Carmelo Anthony. No one wants to play with Carmelo Anthony.
I get it. I get it. But you can't tell me this dude can't get buckets. And I'm just telling you, I watched this interaction. I was very impressed. All the way around.
And I think that's the contradiction. I always defend Carmelo Anthony. We talked about it yesterday. We went into the commercial break still arguing about it. Carmelo Anthony, in a meritocracy, which sports maybe used to be yesteryear, deserves to be in the NBA. But once storyline, once narrative, once reputation, once these GMs and their relationships start to be a part of that equation, it gets blurry. And coaches used to always remind us in the locker room, this is not a birthright, y'all. It's a privilege. And as soon as you lose sight of that privilege, guess what? It's going to be hell to pay to get back to this place. And there's a flow, there's a current, as we all know as a player, that you have to stay in it. You got to stay with it. Professional athlete. It's not the best athlete. If it was best athlete, they would go to my neighborhood and grab 5 other guys who were better, stronger, faster. But they grabbed the guys who stayed in alignment with that flow, that current. Once you get out of it, good luck trying to swim against it. Good luck trying to get back into it. And that's what I'm saying. I have not seen examples of a guy who goes out with a testimonial and gets his career back. And it's unfortunate, but it's
He's
real.
not trying to get his career back, though, to what you're saying. He's trying to just get back in the league.
He wants back in the league and to play basketball, and I believe him.
That's his career.
That again, I believe, dude. This to me sounded like someone who's really benefited from some therapy.
Oh yeah.
And some self-reflection, and has a level of self-awareness, and that I think is rare for people that have made $250 million just from basketball. The guy's probably made another $100 million elsewhere. To have that kind of self-awareness and to be able to go on and sit down with Stephen A. Smith, who also, I got Stephen A. awesome job with the interview, but to sit down with him and carry that for an hour, and because Stephen A. was probing him and hitting him with some tough questions, he handled it all. It's everything I would want to hear from Carmelo at this point, and I'm just telling you, things are so close in the NBA, there will be a GM, there will be a coach like, oh, Carmelo might be ready to take these 12 minutes I got to offer.
He played for the Thunder. They wanted nothing.
I was the Golden State Warriors.
They wanted
beat me. He's in a different place, Doug. He's not the same guy.
Everybody's in a different place when they don't have a job and they get the job and they go back to being the same Melo they've always been.
Sometimes is what has to happen.
He still went.
You can't talk your way back into this. And look, I think
he talked his way out of it, in my opinion.
No. We don't know what those actions were that went with that talk. We know the story of it, but we don't know the actions and the day-to-day interactions. Here's the thing. Phil Jackson said it. I think a lot of GMs and coaches subscribe to it. There's nothing more difficult than coaching a superstar that is aging.
Yeah.
Now, this is a superstar that is aged, and I don't know if it's impossible, but coach is going to look, what's in the draft? What's on the chopping block? Who's going to be out there without the ego, without the reputation that can give me half the production?
Let me ask y'all this.
That's what they're going to do.
How were the Rockets damaged by bringing him in?
They weren't.
They weren't. Because, again, and you got to understand, you're not going to have to pay not much.
Right.
You can get rid of him easy. And I'm just telling anybody watching this interview, I'm sorry, you got to be impressed with this dude. And you have to.
Definitely.
Why not bring him in? We can dust him if it doesn't work. It didn't hurt the Rockets. They were still right there in the Western Conference Finals. So there's no downside.
Well, it did hurt them. They started slow.
They did not get off to it. Now, they didn't get off to a good start because James Harden wasn't healthy, in fairness. But, like, look, to be I don't think people understand. This is like the conversation of Kaepernick as a backup quarterback in the NFL.
He's in a total different mental space than Kaepernick.
Well, I would agree based upon the fact we haven't heard from Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
We haven't seen him, we haven't heard from him. But it's the idea of to be a backup quarterback, like the reason Matt Schaub, I didn't even know till last night he was still in the league. It's because that job is specifically to get the starter ready. You have to totally change, and to be a bench player in the NBA, you don't just have to come in and get buckets. Like, look, he's going to have to play the 4. He never wanted to play the 4. He's going to have to switch on ball screens and guard somebody. Can't guard anybody. He's a mid-range, like his game is also something from the early 2000s. It doesn't fit with today. And so while if it's in a pickup game, is he a better player than most NBA players? Yeah. But Bruce Bowen, we used to play pickup ball with him at Cal State Fullerton, and he wasn't one of the 3 best players in the court. But in an NBA game, he did exactly what he was supposed to do.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. You're forced to. Yeah, this week I spent $4,000 and had a Stairmaster put in my apartment. And this morning I was on it for 20 minutes. I didn't want to do it. The old me would have never did it.
No, you need a discount code next time. How at your boy,
Oh,
man?
that dude, he knows everybody.
Whitlock and Wiley, we're joined now by Fox Sports NFL analyst Greg Jennings, former Pro Bowl linebacker LeVar Arrington. Let's move to Pittsburgh, where a lot is being made of the new-look Steelers, who seem pretty happy to have a fresh start after shipping some of their bigger personalities like Antonio Brown out of town. Big Ben in particular seems ecstatic about being free of the distractions, saying, quote, "I feel like I love football again. I don't know if I can put my finger on a particular reason, but it just feels that way."
That's how he said it. And that
Anyway,
tone.
I like this comment. I have no issue with it. He doesn't have to babysit Antonio Brown.
Oh, babysit.
And they don't have to
Here we
deal
go,
with
here we
the Le'Veon Bell contract drama. And so Big Ben loves football again, and he's happy.
Oh, yeah, he's happy, huh? And it's funny, longtime beat writer Jerry Dulac heard Ben say this, and he's like, "Ben, I was here last year. You looked happy last year. You looked like you loved football then." He's like, no, this is different. This is more. And he's like, "Why?" Radio silence. Now, This is my thing. If you're going to pull out your gun, just shoot, man. Come on, Big Ben. We been there. We all teammates. We all part of this fraternity. We know. Don't pull the gun unless you're going to shoot.
I know what it is.
Coach used to say names and numbers. He's like, I don't give a damn y'all call somebody out. As long as I get that name and number. Who did it? Who said it? And Ben pulled this out and didn't even want to shoot. This is that AB. It's so easy to see coming, like, Ben, the lake house all of a sudden was open again, and the schedule opened up. And
He can't be happy AB's gone?
look, say it then. Say why.
He just said it.
Why? I can't put my finger on it. I got my finger on it. It's far. It's in Oakland right now, so miss me with this. Come on, man.
Well, look, the saying goes, same thing make you smile, make you cry, right? Same thing make you laugh, make you cry. This is one of those situations he is taking a shot at both of them, maybe Bell and Brown. The reality here is that when you start to put those type of small quotes out there, my wife said it, and then you throw Juju Schuster in there, and so now it's a direct comparison by position. The reality of it is what's their record right now? Everybody's a champion right now, right?
Say it.
Everybody got the same. Everybody's undefeated right now. So you can sit there and laugh and smile and kiki about it, run to the 15 and play pitch and catch with Juju.
Yeah.
But what happens now is the minute they start playing them games, if they're not getting the results they're looking for, don't think that these types of quotes aren't going to resurface and become a topic of conversation.
Where you're headed is where I'm going. I don't like it, number one, because I've been on this side of it, and I understand that whole quarterback, or that talk where you leave everybody's mind to just wonder and fill in the blanks. I don't like that. We know exactly what you're doing, and you're taking shots. But the reason why I don't like it is because, number one, Ben Roethlisberger has never been one to own it. He's never been one to just own it. This is going to make him own it. You no longer have the excuse of Antonio Brown is going to take some of the heat. Le'Veon Bell isn't present. No, Ben, you're happy. This is my team. This is my way. So when we have adverse situations, Ben, what's going on? I'm still happy. Are you still good? Is everything still floating the way you thought it was floating when there was no record during training camp, when there was no issues or whatever? So this is why I don't like it, because you create this yourself and you put yourself under a microscope that is unnecessary.
Look, I know you two for sure have never been divorced. I can't speak for Lamar. Have you ever been divorced? No.
Second time you asked him that,
right,
you know that, right?
I know.
Damn, what you trying to say? What happened in Vegas?
I'm just saying, there's a joy that people experience once they get divorced, both man and woman. There's a joy. There's that, oh, man, this feels so good. I ain't never felt like this again. Oh, my God, my toes is curled up. And it's unbelievable.
Sunshine.
The best we ever had.
Put your mama on the phone.
I ain't never coming. I ain't never coming.
And so I'm just, Ben is having his toes curled and he's happy. And we're sitting here hating on the man.
And we acting like
because he's divorced and happy.
But Ben doesn't know why his toes curling?
But aren't there phases?
Exactly.
Just tell me
why.
Aren't there phases to that, though? Don't you go through depression? Like, maybe he's sitting there and really, in reality, maybe he's upset that Antonio isn't there. I mean, sometimes when you say I'm doing
football again and he's
but
happy.
sometimes when you say I'm doing well,
man.
Well,
AP's a headache.
But I'm
he's
doing
a great
well.
Player, but he's
I want to
headache.
let y'all know I'm doing well. Like,
look.
You talking about a divorce. You get that divorce, what you going on your social media, posting selfies, this, that, and the other. You want that other person to see that you're doing well. You might not really be doing well, though.
Oh, here's the real.
You might not be doing that well.
Okay, now that's a point.
That's why I want to collect all these thoughts.
I want you to know.
I want to collect all these thoughts because you guys are hitting it, but we are dancing. Mike Tomlin is the referee in this one.
Oh.
And right now, he can't do anything because he's like, that's below the belt. But you know what? I'm going to see what AB does. I'm going to see what we do. Now, we know in camp, man, even though it's camp, we still undefeated. We champions. This is our year, right? And adversity hits. We'll see what happens. Mike Tomlin went out this week and talked about ownership. And they asked him about Big Ben as a leader. And Mike told us that this was coming. Mike said Ben needs to be himself. That's all I ever asked of him. Just lead with your own voice. And you talked about it, ownership. Ben and Mike is like, I'm going to see how this plays because these boys might not be what we just got rid of.
They're not.
And you need to own that. So right now, you can't even own why you love the game more this year. we already off to a bad start. Now, I know Mike Tomlin's somewhere sitting there like, I
put
tried
him
to
on
warn
the-
y'all.
Mike
putting him on the
Tomlin
seat.
is sitting there just as happy as Ben because he ain't sitting around worried about
No,
is
I disagree
AB
with
gonna
that.
be here for practice? Is he gonna be filming stuff in the locker room? Are we gonna be dealing with all his off the field issues?
Are we going to win as many
nonstop?
games?
Are
Are we going to win games
They
this
had
year?
AB last year and they didn't make the playoffs.
But
What?
I was on that side of when I left Green Bay and I chose to go to Minnesota, and I was entering into an atmosphere in a quarterback wide receiver relationship with Christian Ponder. And previously, I had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Now, everything that I was saying was, man, Christian looks great. He has all the tools, all the skills, and everything that I need in a quarterback. But in the back of my mind, I'm looking like, man, I hope he live up to this. Because I know he's not these guys, but I got to put on because I want these guys to feel like or see that I made the right decision, that I'm excited.
That's a valuable point.
Just being honest, you want people to know, look, we're good. I'm good.
We're good.
Regardless of how you really, truly feel.
Right. I love
But you knew you wasn't good, Greg.
You knew you wasn't.
You knew you wasn't as good.
From
It's a state
a
of
on
mind.
the field perspective, I knew I was gonna struggle.
Yeah.
I knew I was gonna struggle.
But your happiness was in
Coming up. Whitlock and Wiley, Greg Jennings and LeVar Arrington are back. Time to get antisocial.
Hit it.
Darnell, what you got?
Yes, sir. We're going to get it going with the Raiders. Where ever since John Gruden was hired as head coach, rumors have been swirling that Derek Carr isn't his guy. Well, Carr might be trying to win Gruden over because it was confirmed they bought a house in Vegas right next to Chucky. Hopefully, Carr will be sticking around as QB because that's going to be one weird, awkward housewarming party. But, guys, do you guys think it was a good idea?
Terrible.
Terrible idea?
Terrible.
man.
I mean,
Because John Gruden and quarterbacks, man, he runs them off. He's going to regret this decision.
it's a little teacher's pet in there. You know, here's my apple. I'm living right next door to you. But if he's a neighbor like I'm a neighbor, I don't mess with my neighbors. Don't come over my house. I don't invite nothing. So I don't even know who live next to me. And that's the way I keep
But that's culturally speaking.
Right. Oh, okay.
This is different culture.
Oh, they don't act like we do.
You mentioned Apple. You know what's going to happen here? Your boy's going to have like lime trees and stuff like that growing in Coach's yard. He's going to make sure his gardener goes over there and makes sure the yard is clipped. Everything's going to be manicured perfectly. It's a great move by Mr. Carr. I'm sorry.
Nah, boss, I don't want to see nobody that has control over my future next door to me, unless I'm the one in control. No.
Especially when I leave work. I got to go home and do this.
All right, sticking with the NFL, the Rams' all-time leading rusher Steven Jackson has officially retired, but wanted to go out the right way. Earlier this week, he decided to sign a one-day contract with the Rams and got one last carry so he could retire with the team he started with. Well, evidently, Jackson looked a little too fast during his final carry because afterwards, the NFL sent him a random drug test. Jackson tweeted out, "Dear NFL, can you tell Mr. Lombardo that I signed a one-day contract? I will not be reporting today for my random drug test screening. Thanks in advance." Jackson hasn't played since 2015, so you think the league is just trolling here?
No, I think this legitimately speaks to the randomness of the drug testing policy. It's that random.
So random that they made sure that they did it on a one-day retirement.
Wow.
Look, I believe it's random. I went like 8 years, only got tested once, and then 1 year like 11, and I was bad that year, so I was like, it ain't based on performance. It ain't based on what I'm doing. So I think it's random, but I think it's also funny.
You know, I think it's interesting because we sit there looking at the way he ran that football. To me, it's crazy how unathletic we can start to look, some of us, when we don't play anymore. That's no shot. Hey, I love you to death, Steve, but you looked a trick trying to run that football. Look,
It's over.
They don't want to make a mockery of the game, so they said, look, we're going to stop people from jumping out there trying to run the football during practices, during training camp. It's bad for business. Let's say we're going to drug test him.
This was a shot. This was a shot. It was nothing random about it. I don't mind it, though. I mean, it is what it is.
If you ain't doing nothing,
Time now for Darnell's question of the day. Take it away.
All right, so Whitlock, you took a lot of backlash on social media for your comments on LeBron, specifically from the black community. So I want to ask you guys, as black TV personalities, do you guys have a responsibility to hold your tongues when speaking on other black stars?
I want to clarify one thing. I don't think I took a lot of backlash from the black community. I think I took a lot of backlash from Twitter's alleged black community.
Twitter, yeah.
So I think that's completely different. And to be quite, no, I'm a journalist. And so I'm just going to speak the truth about whoever it is. When I was in Kansas City and covering Carl Peterson, Marty Schottenheimer, Roy Williams, whoever. I took a lot of heat from white people. Why you so hard on Marty? Why you so hard on Carl Peterson? You must be racist. No, I'm a critic. I'm a journalist. That's what I do.
Yeah, look, I do you no favors if I don't keep it 100, no matter who you are, because one, I'm doing it with a spirit that I'm trying to either educate, help, or just give you my assessment. And if I'm incorrect, hey, I'm right here. I don't talk about the actor. I talk about the act. I talk about what you give me, and that's it. And I don't try to go any deeper into your world. But I do feel as a black journalist, black man, black football player, that at times I must inform those who are not as privy to knowing some of the details of my culture, my experience, my background. So whatever that may lend itself to, at times when I see there is a divide and maybe the bridge is racial understanding, then I will respectfully tell them from my perspective.
For me, I think that sometimes I think more or I process a little different when I try to answer a question that I know I'm going to be controversial because it's someone, a peer, or they have status and they are African American. I tread lightly because I understand being in that position. So I come from a level of experience. How would I feel if I watched one of my peers or a counterpart or colleague or whatever, or journalist that looks like me talking about me and they understand the struggle? Because it is a struggle, it is a climb, it is something to be said when you, however you get there, when you make it to that pinnacle. And I think we have to lift each other up because we see others tearing us down already. So that's just my perspective. But however, I'm going to give truth, I'm going to be fair, but I am going to slightly look at it from a different lens because I have experience in that space.
Legalizing white people to do the same, but go ahead.
I don't
mind that.
I don't tippy-toe around any type of subject matters or topics of conversation because I was raised to be true to myself and true to those who truly love and care for me and that I love and care for. So I'm not going to compromise what my opinions and what my thoughts and my ideologies are going to be because they're unique and independent to me.
Right.
So you don't have to get mad at me as a community for my own personal opinion. Whether you think I represented us correctly or whether you represented us incorrectly in your opinion, that's your opinion. So if I'm stating an opinion, I'm giving you my personal opinion based off of what it has meant to me to be who I am and how I grew up and the things I've gone through and the life I've lived and what I've experienced. I've been on the side of gang violence where I've lost family to gang violence. I've been on the side where I've lost family to police brutality. I've been on the side of all kinds of different things where you could say, if you have an obligation to this, it's based upon this. I don't use anything that I do and what I bring to the table and when I'm on camera and in front of the people who are watching us and sugarcoat it or water it down because I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice and how you were raised and where you came from. And you're also doing those who are watching you a disservice because at the end of the day, they're going to know. They're going to know you wasn't keeping it real.
I'm going to say this.
You know the real.
People die from what they don't know. And so when you deny people the truth and an honest opinion, you're keeping them ignorant and you're moving them closer to making the wrong decisions. And then the other thing I'll say, and I mean this as someone who was a mediocre college athlete that studied journalism and have a career in journalism. We're in this era where athletes are on television a lot. And it's a good thing. We want to hear their perspective. But we got to remember, they're not here to be true journalists. A lot is here to represent the athlete's perspective, and I get it. There are others that, from Mike Wilbon to Stephen A. Smith to Jason Whitlock to Tony Kornheiser, journalists. And we're coming at everything from a journalist perspective. Whitlock and Wiley, Doug Gottlieb is back with us. Let's return to LeBron James. Yesterday, his former general manager, David Griffin, told SI that he was miserable trying to build a team around LeBron in Cleveland. LeBron appeared to be responding, tweeting, quote, all right, enough is enough. The throne has been played with too much, and I ain't for horseplay. Ether coming soon. Well, Griffin responded this afternoon saying, quote, when I was speaking about being uncomfortable and, quote, being miserable, it was my inability to deal with that media scrutiny. It wasn't the man himself. It was everything that came with the team led by LeBron James. Had nothing to do with being miserable with LeBron. We had and have a very positive relationship. I was so disappointed that the story really came about me and sensationalized version of quotes that were taken totally out of context. All right. The question here is, do you think differently about Griffin's criticism after his clarification today? And I don't. I think he was honest. I think he was honest in the Sports Illustrated article about some of the struggles. I think he's being relatively honest now, trying to walk it back, but, you know, the toothpaste is out of the bottle.
I don't think any different as well. And it's because, in part, reading the follow-up interview from Dave McMenamin, shout out to DMC, who wrote that LeBron and Griffin had a great relationship, they felt. LeBron's tweeting out his wife's company and really just thinking, wow, this came as a shock. So now we can talk about context. Was he taken out of context? Was he talking in a different spirit than what we read? That said, I don't believe David Griffin fully about him talking about just the noise. Because this disassociation between who brings the noise and the noise that comes with him, let's be real about this. We can't just say, oh, man, you're always bringing all this attention with you, and not sometimes put some of that blame on you and you trying to keep that going. So I don't like that. I don't like that he's trying to clarify, I didn't mean anything about LeBron, when in reality, if all this comes with LeBron right. has to be a part of that equation.
You couldn't have said it any better, and then you combine it with what you said yesterday or the day before, one of the, I think, version 3 of LeBron AAU, your take, which is he does suck up all the air out of the room. That's what he does. He doesn't even hide the fact. And you're right that your team is who your best player is, on the court, off the court. And this is what I've said to you guys, what people in the NBA have told me. Kyrie didn't have any problem with playing with LeBron. It's all the other stuff. It was, does LeBron control who the coach is? Does LeBron help control? His agent represents Tristan and represents JR, and they got a little bit too much money. And then you got to deal with the owner. Like, Dan Gilbert somehow avoided criticism. He's a big part of the problem.
Right.
I'm sure he didn't like paying the luxury tax. You know, LeBron never warmed up to him. I'm guessing LeBron would love to own not just an NBA team, but that NBA team if he had his druthers. It's in his hometown. So I actually believed him the first time. I believe most of what he's trying to walk back and explain the second time, but I don't think it changes how I feel about how I perceive dealing with LeBron James, which is it's not easy because of everything that comes with it.
I don't see this as much of a walk back. I see it as a clarification, and he's trying to take some of the tone down and make it seem less like an attack. The thing where I think he's on rock solid ground, because I think we've all experienced it if you've been written about by the media. He's like, man, this is supposed to be a story about me and the Pelicans and what we were trying to build here with the Pelicans, and he feels like he was misled because it's about LeBron James, or the aftermath is about LeBron James. I'll defend Sports Illustrated here. David Griffin, you got to be smart enough. You say anything about LeBron James, shortly after he just missed the playoffs and there's all this attention and noise around him during the free agency period, you damn well know if there's any quotes about LeBron in a story, it's going to overshadow, because, you know, Pelicans are interesting, but if you really want to do a story on the Pelicans, just focus on the Pelicans, send Zion out there, not Dave Griffin.
Man, you nailed that. The more we talk, the more I'm really going to get moved in terms of my support slightly for David Griffin, because it comes with the territory of LeBron James. And now you're trying to act like that all you were mad about was
the media.
The media and the territory, and not LeBron James, because LeBron James, if he could bring it, you think in your mind, LeBron James, you could quench it, you could squash it. And LeBron did none of that. I think really at the core of this is the same thing Phil Jackson was kind of alluding to when he said posse. Yep. There are a lot of people who have resentment when they went to law school, became agents, worked their way up to whatever it may be in the organization. And then LeBron comes through and say, oh, these are my homies. And they're working on their credentials, but while they're working on it, they're in your office with their feet up. Talking about, yeah, we're going to do this. And solidifying not only their existence, but getting credentialed. So now people like David, who had that long, arduous climb, are like, what the hell happened? And they don't want to say that because it has racial undertones.
Totally.
It has all these implications that's beyond just merit, but in reality, it comes with the territory. So he's going to blame the media, but in reality, how in the hell is your homies bigger and more powerful than me when I have this title?
You nailed it. And that's what they tried this year with the Lakers. That was a coup d'etat, right? They wanted their coach, they wanted their players, and they got some of it. They didn't get all. They got Jason Kidd in there, but they couldn't get Ty Lue as the head coach. They want to control. They almost infest the place. And to a greater extent, it worked in Cleveland considering what they had been before and what they have been since. But I think that's what led to his lack of enjoyability. I will point out that I think Magic Johnson appeared clownish in many of the things he said and done since he left the Lakers. But the day he left, he said he wanted to get back to having fun, right?
Yeah.
And what has David Griffin said? This is not fun.
Right.
And so no matter how much he has Taco Tuesday on Twitter, and no matter how much he seems to be having a great time watching his son improve as a basketball player, I think my takeaway is, like, it's just not that much fun, even when you win. And I understand that sometimes building is better than actually living in the new house, right? That the process is, and that's kind of what he talked about. And I think that's what he wanted the article to be about. But the picture he painted is one that we've seen a little bit of in Miami, a lot of in Cleveland, and so far in Los Angeles, which is because of his people that he has to bring with him. And that's his belief that when they succeed, he succeeds, and he's a part of their personal growth. I think it's just not that much fun to be a part of.
Marcellus, your point about this goes on in all industries, people getting what others perceive as undeserved opportunity.
Yes.
In my industry, newspaper writing, that I came up and have an amazing, over-the-top passion for, I've seen my industry like, well, damn, now everybody gets to be a columnist. And when I started as a columnist in 1994, it was one of the hardest positions to earn. You had to jump over all kinds of hoops and show so much talent and kiss so much rear end and do all the right things, and then they let you say your opinion.
Yeah.
And nobody else got to say their opinion. And now, because of the internet and things, everybody gets, and blogs, everybody gets to spout their opinion, and the public sits out and says, oh, well, that guy is on the same level as Jason Whitlock and Stephen A. Smith and Michael Wilbon and Tony. And we're sitting there like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And so David Griffin here, I think, is just speaking honestly about LeBron. And I think that LeBron and his camp should understand, stick to their guns. If they believe in their way and their way is the right way, rather than make David Griffin and other people apologize for telling the truth about what it's like to work, you know what? We brought a championship to Cleveland. Anybody else do it?
Right. And look, it's on David, though. Look, we're not forcing you to apologize. You want to clarify because you're really not saying what you really feel. So there's going to be a lot of levels of clarification until you just look in the mirror and tell us what that conversation sounds like. Here's the thing. Phil Jackson said posse. Pat Riley shut it down, right? David Griffin said no fun. Magic just dipped in the middle of the night. There's something that comes with LeBron. We all know it. Won't you tell us what your real issue is with it? And I tell you,
did.
No, he is not telling you. He wanted credit and he wanted control. And this is the thing that divided Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson.
I don't think it's control.
Yeah. You know why it's control? He said it. He said it in the article. He said, look, I'm in a world where LeBron gets all the credit.
Yes.
This
is true. This is true. But
what do you want from that?
I know, but you work your whole life. Okay, he's also from Cleveland, right? Like, so this was important to him.
Right.
I'm talking about David Griffin.
Yep.
So you work your whole life to get to be the general manager of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and you think like, man, I get to pick my coach. We picked this coach, and LeBron was like, no, I don't like David Blatt. Okay, then I get to at least negotiate the salaries of the. No. we're going to have my kind of guys, and you're going to pay them X, or they're not going to show up, and that's just the way it's going to be. And so I don't think that's control. I think he just wanted to do his job.
No. You're misreading me. Credit and control. In this attention-based society now, people more than ever want credit. Like, make sure I get my likes, I get my compliments, I get the upper mobility from this move. The control doesn't come from those under you. It comes from those on top of you. This is what Kendrick Perkins was talking about. Hey, Dan Gilbert, if you really think your general manager is in control, empower him. You can't look at the players and say we're going to empower him. It's just a title on the door until you flex that power. He had no control, and he got no credit. Then it became no fun. Say that, and then we will understand where you're coming from. But if you say it's the media just misrepresenting how you felt.
I agree with you on the media
I
part.
agree with you, but I do think he's inferring that. And Marcellus, I think what he said, there's no credit to be had in Cleveland because LeBron made all the decisions and all the values that David Griffin wanted to instill in the organization were blunted. Again, Doug made a hell of a point today on The Herd about they didn't even practice. You show me a basketball purist or coach or executive, they want their teams to practice. LeBron's like, nah, we're not practicing. That's not what we do here. And so there was they didn't enjoy the process. David Griffin. And
that they just turned into one person just now. Who else didn't enjoy the process?
Yes, but this is all
David
reflection. This is
Dead man walking.
And look, Kyrie obviously has his own rebuilding of his image to do.
Right.
But when Kyrie got to Boston, he was blown away. What he said was by the professionalism of it.
Yes.
And by professionalism was everybody showed up on time, everybody practiced together, they watched film together, and that wasn't how it was in Cleveland. And if LeBron wanted it to be that way, it would have been that way because he's LeBron James. And that's part of the article which he doesn't address in his walkback is he talked about the culture of Cleveland and that it was an unsustainable culture. And your culture is a reflection of your coach, but also the biggest reflection is of your best player. And I thought that was an indictment of LeBron. And this year, what happened with the Lakers when they fell apart was an indictment of LeBron.
And what LeBron believes, and it worked for him, though, is like, hey, man, there were some other culture things that I established that I think were more important than practice and some of these other things. Because there are a lot of guys. Dante Jones come on this show. LeBron's one of the greatest teammates, and he'd have bowling night at his house, and we'd do this and that. And they did all kinds of team-building things that were all fun, and they all went out and kicked it and had a good time together as a team. Halloween parties, the whole nine. Those are the things that are important to LeBron. And then on the court, he's going to do LeBron stuff, and you'll win. Right. But coaches, executives, and others like, man, that's what happens when you leave. Where are we going to have the Halloween party at?
Right.
Golden State didn't forget about that Halloween party.
Whitlock and Wiley, Greg Jennings, and LeVar Arrington are back. Let's move to Baltimore, where John Harbaugh spent this week talking up how Lamar Jackson is going to revolutionize the NFL with his running game. Well, turns out his quarterback has some other ideas, telling Rich Eisen, quote, I put on weight, but I don't think I'll be running as much as I did last year. There were a lot of run-pass options and a lot of sudden changes in last year's game. This will be totally different. All right, I think both these guys can be right, Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, but is Lamar Jackson contradicting Harbaugh a bit of a red flag?
No, it's not a red flag at all. They're talking about the same book but different chapters. And I think Lamar just told you what he's talking about. Last year, a lot of opportunities at the line of scrimmage, RPOs. Last year, I didn't feel so comfortable and confident. Guess what I was calling? The R, run. And this year, he's going to see that same look, and maybe he's like, I could do the P. I could pass this ball because I feel more comfortable, and he's been working on his arm and his accuracy. So they're on the same page.
I'm going to have to disagree, and the reason being is I was in D.C. during the RG3 Shanahan, we'll call it fiasco or whatever you want to call it. Listen, those same reports started to come out. I'm a pocket passing quarterback. I'm a drop back quarterback. Dad got involved, everything, right? You're having all these conversations. Shanahan is saying this. RG3 is saying this. I want to be a drop back quarterback. It's always been an age-old deal when you have an athletic quarterback that you're going to have the conversation of them running the ball. Are they an athlete? All these different conversational points because they don't look like traditional quarterbacks. It is on a different page, and it could be problematic. What they need to do is sit down, in the privacy of whoever matters within that circle, and they need to make sure they flush out what they're saying to the media and why they're saying it so everybody understands the how and the what, so that the ultimate end result is what it needs to be. And by chance or circumstance, RG3 is on that roster. So he needs to have some feedback in all of this as well.
Man, you might just completely change my answer. I mean, that is a strong argument. I didn't think about it like that, because initially I'm like, no, they're not at odds. They're not on different pages. Joe Flacco is gone because I saw you, and I want you. But after what you just said, now I remind myself of when he was talking about he being Lamar Jackson. When he first was drafted, I'm not trying to play no receiver. I'm not going on the field at no wildcat and all these specialized positions. I want to throw the ball. I'm a quarterback.
Yes.
And when you try to pigeonhole someone in a corner and label them as one thing, the number one thing they want to prove is that they're not just that. And so you got me.
Man, here's why I think they could both be right.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson averaged like 16 carries a game last year. You got to remember he played in an abbreviated deal.
7 games.
All Harbaugh has said is I'd bet the over on 149 carries or 139, whatever Cam Newton had, blah, blah. And so that's really only 10 carries per game. That's less than what he was averaging last year,
Good point.
but would still be more than what Cam had. No, I agree. It's a lot,
season,
and it's too much. And I agree with your take that Lamar Jackson wants to prove that he's a passing quarterback. He knows that's where the money is, that's where the longevity is.
Yeah.
And people are saying he can't do it. Tell a young person they can't do something.
They're gonna do it.
And they're gonna try to prove you wrong.
As a defensive-minded person, defenses have changed. So I know them comparing Kaepernick and the offensive coordinator and the head coach, and the names are the same, except the head coaches are brothers and this, that, and the other. That time has passed. Let me tell you something. If Kaepernick was going to be the guy to play and be in this league and be successful again, they would have brought him back. They would have brought him back. No matter what the odds were, they would have brought him back. That time has gone. You got to be able to throw the ball at this point. You got defense have caught up.
Uncle Jimmy's here, although I think Uncle LaDon James is here.
Hey, Dad.
You got thoughts on the show?
Most definitely. Let's get to this big dummy of the day. This is a good one. And somebody said that in order to get through journalism, they had to jump through all kind of hoops.
Oh, don't do them like that.
Who? When? What were they greased with? What was you trying to get on the other side? Are there any video footage of this act?
Here's a highlight.
Live.
Discussion earlier about LeBron James.
You got the Stairmaster, though.
LeBron is quite pleased with himself. He's angry and motivated now. He'll be bored by January. Worse, by March, it will be crystal clear that the Lakers can't compete with Kawhi Leonard's Clippers.
The media loves to build you up, but they love it even more to tear you down. And right now, they smell a little blood in the water.
Timber! All right, we had a big discussion about how LeBron's going to perform this year after this offseason of criticism. Uncle LaDon, how's he going to do?
First of all, I need to know why y'all go around and get reports from everybody else instead of coming and getting them straight from the source.
We just came to you. Now get to it.
Let me ask you a simple question.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, man. I like LeBron.
No.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Go ahead. You're his uncle, of course.
Look at man, LeBron. Let me explain something. LeBron is seeing the same doctor that Barry Bonds done seen. He going to see the same doctor in Germany that Kobe went to see when his knee was acting up.
Stop it, man. Stop it.
I'm just kidding. I'm lying. Here's what I'm trying to tell y'all. LeBron James about to turn back the hands of time. See, let me tell y'all what y'all missed about that AAU game. My nephew, LeBron James, damn near jumped over the rim and missed that dunk. Let me tell y'all something. Don't be surprised if before this season's over, LeBron James be the first player in NBA history to dunk a ball with his feet.
That's really turning back.
Now look at you laughing, but I'm gonna tell you something. LeBron James is about to wreak havoc on the NBA. Remember them old Godzilla movies? Remember when Godzilla be coming through, kicking the buildings over and everything, baby? Everybody running and screaming?
Like Snoop.
That's what Kawhi and Paul George gonna be doing in the Staples Center this year. And oh yeah, this just in. Mr. Whitlock.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if we get a little knock at your door. and you look through the peephole. And you see Godzilla stare, spitting fire at you.
Pull up.
See here, you thought them little fire emojis and that little ether reference.
Yeah.
You thought that was for David Griffin.
Yeah.
No, that was for you, bro.
He don't want this smoke.
Hey, it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun, is it?
Say it. Bump Jay-Z.
He don't
He
want
coming
this smoke.
for you.
Bump Jay-Z.
He don't want this. He don't want none of this. All right, let me get my approval rating for LeBron. I'm just joking. LeBron kicked my ass. Job performance, 18. All-time greatness, 22.
Really?
5 authenticity. I'm dropping
it
him
took him
a
a
point
while.
in character. David Griffin
Why?
took a pot shot at him. You know.
So you drop LeBron?
59.
How you know David telling the
59.
truth?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying.
Ain't that just like Whitlock?
I move him up authenticity 1 because at least in the moment he said, I hear y'all. I like that. I don't want to wait till your Hall of Fame speech and then all of a sudden you crying about, I heard y'all. Like, say it in the moment. Respect.
All right, so our fans online agree with you, Marcellus. They have LeBron at GOAT status
Yeah,
at
pretty
like
much.
51%.
I'm right under him.
Dumpster fire was, second place. So
Let me get some of that, LaDon.
kinda right
What
in
you
the
got in there?
Yes,
What you got up in
it's
there?
the weekend, baby.
I got some Jack Pagney over here. Come holler at your boy.